Dudes, this list was actually supposed to be a top 10, but as I'm writing this list, I'm like, man, I just can't narrow it down to my 10 favorites. My honorable mentions was another 10 figures, so I was like, to heck with it. Let's just make a top 20 and be done with it. Now, most of these are not going to be in any particular order, just because I have a hard time saying which ones I like exactly better. I did make the last 3 in actual order. Other than that, it's just kind of a free-for-all of the ones that I liked best. I really can't put them in order. I'm sorry if that's what you're hoping for. I just can't. Anyhow, on with the list. Okay, so my first figure in no particular order, I'd have to say was my Multiverse movie Aquaman figure. I reviewed him not long ago in a video where I reviewed all 4 figures and then did the Build-A-Figure, and I was so impressed with the Multiverse Aquaman, not even necessarily because the likeness was so close to Jason Momoa. I just thought they executed the figure really well. The sculpt was really nice and clean. The details were very much spot on. And the face paint for the Jason Momoa aspect, quite often Mattel does the face painting really sloppy, but this was super crisp and super clear. And I like the fact that the head doesn't get in the way of the articulation. So right off the bat, I have to say the Multiverse Jason Momoa movie Aquaman figure. And then with that, I've got to say the Black Manta. The Black Manta figure that was released in the movie Multiverse Aquaman movie wave is really well done as well. It very easily made its way onto my top 20 figures for 2018. I think that it does a really good job of representing Black Manta as seen in the movie. And both of these figures have pretty good articulation. Mattel seems to be moving forward in the articulation department quite well, so both of these figures from the multiverse are the first 2 I want to mention. The next figure I want to mention is the Missions Line Robin figure, the one that I personally see as Tim Drake. You may see this as a different Robin, maybe Dick, maybe Damian, who knows? I see this as Tim, and I just thought, how cool is that we actually got not 1, but 2, because we got a variant of this Robin figure in different suits that you could technically kind of put in with your movie verse, or your comic verse, or your multiverse, or you could just collect the entire Missions line and he fits in really well with them. And good Robin figures are hard to find. He really is underproduced by comparison to Batman. And I know a lot of fans were just like, man, this figure looks cool, and I can deal with the lower amount of articulation just to have another Robin figure. I liked it, so it made the list. Next on my list is the Multiverse Rebirth Superman figure. I know it's not as high up on the list with articulation, however, it is still a pretty good representation, and a lot of people feel like it has the best Superman head sculpt that Mattel's given us to date. I tend to think it's a really good head sculpt as well. Maybe the skin is a little bit too dark for Superman's complexion as classically depicted in comic books, but it's still a good head sculpt nonetheless, in my opinion. And I was happy to see the double jointed knees. I know that, again, it's not nearly as good as the newer multiverse figures are. It doesn't have the ankle pivots. It certainly doesn't have anything special for the elbows, although most of them still don't have anything special for the elbows. But really, it's one of the only 2 Rebirth Superman figures that we're probably ever going to get. That and the DC Icons, which I didn't put on the list because it came out before the list would have been... It was a 2017 figure, not a 2018 figure. But the Multiverse is a 2018 figure, so he made the list. I was also really excited to receive the Multiverse John Wesley Shipp Flash figure. I think that we never got a John Wesley Shipp Flash when I was a kid, and we're probably never going to get another one. This is probably, it is likely, I'm calling it the only John Wesley Shipp classic looking Flash figure that us fans and collectors will ever receive. And it does have good articulation. The neck is on a hinge peg, it has double jointed knees, it has double jointed elbows. This thing has really good articulation, and it looks like John Wesley Shipp, so how could it not make my list? The Multiverse John Wesley Shipp classic television show Flash action figure. And while we're in the realm of the Flash, why not include the Mapleridge Flash from the Justice League movie? That Ezra Miller Flash figure, I worked a long time on that video, longer than I work on most. When I do a longer video, it's usually about 3 days to edit the video. That one probably took me a total of 4.5 days to put together because I really just took time posing him and balancing him in those poses and working with him. He's such a good figure. If you don't have that Ezra Miller Mapleridge Flash figure, you're really missing out on an excellently sculpted, well-painted, and wonderfully articulated Flash figure. Seriously, you should pick him up. Ezra Miller Flash from Mapleridge. On the list as well, I have the comedian from the DC Essentials, Doomsday Clock. I think that he was a pretty good representation of the character as you've seen him in the comic books, and really we only have two comedians. We have the one that Mattel released in their Club Black Freighter, and then we have this one. And I think he does a good job of being what he needs to be. The articulation is good, and mine, even though I've still fiddled with him, all of my joints on mine are still nice and tight. So he's not suffering from the wibbliness that a lot of the other DC Essentials are suffering from. And I was just really happy to see him. He was painted cleanly and nicely, sculpted nice. So the comedian from the Doomsday Clock line from DC Collectibles. And while we're on that topic, the Marionette as well. The Marionette was just wonderful. All new sculpting detail, she was executed quite nicely, and she looked fantastic. Marionette as well from the Doomsday Clock from DC Essentials. Next up is a figure that I was really stoked to receive, if not just a little bit let down when I got the figure, but still I love the figure very much. I've bought 4 of them from all over the web, and that's the DC Essentials Superman figure. I know when a lot of people saw this figure first shown to the public at the conventions, it was actually a reborn Superman, post-rebirth suit. It was a reborn suited Superman, and a lot of people were like, yeah, that's cool. And I wonder if they're going to keep that look, and then they didn't. And Bendis took over and brought back the trunks, and so it was the trunk suit Superman that we got. Now, for me, I like the trunks. I prefer the trunks. The trunks are classic Superman. For a lot of people, they weren't, and so I feel like the trunks, because they weren't initially what was intended for the figure, I feel like they were sort of a secondary thing. They didn't even paint the belt loops for his belt. And that tells me that it was just a really rushed kind of thing. All that aside, I still love the figure. I love the posability of the figure. I love the fact that there's so much possibility for doing custom work with this figure. And it was one of the figures I was the most excited for. I know some people hate it, but I really wasn't. I was really excited for it. So the DC Essentials Superman figure, post-reborn in the Bendis suit. Next up is the DC Multiverse Gotham by Gaslight Batman figure, a figure that a lot of people are really stoked to get. It's got a cloth goods cape that seems to be of a little bit better quality than previous Mattel cloth good capes offerings that have like the leathery outside and the matte on the inside. It's got a lot better articulation than a lot of the previous Multiverse and DC Universe classics, and I think it does a really good job of looking like that Gotham by Gaslight Batman, ready to chase down Jack the Ripper and give him a bat kick to the Ripper balls. A very cool figure indeed, and the list would not have been complete unless I popped him in there too. Next up we have another multiverse, and that's the Kilmer Batman. Now I know right now a lot of you are booing, but hear me out. Yes, the Kilmer Batman's head sculpt is a little bit strange, and that can be dealt with. Now the more that I look at the figure, I'm okay with it. And yes, the cape it came with just downright stank. The material was horrible, but for both of mine, I've swapped the capes out and replaced the capes. And honestly, just changing out that cape to something that is much better actually makes the figure look so much better. But even with the crummy cape that he came with, he still makes the list for me, because we've never gotten a 6-inch scale Val Kilmer Batman figure, and I don't think we probably ever will again. So just for that matter, I was so happy to get him, and then really, the details aren't that terrible. People have said he doesn't have nipples, and to me, that's neither here nor there. I think he's still a pretty good representation of Val Kilmer in the Batsuit. And you gotta remember, for some people, Val Kilmer is their Batman. It's not Adam West, it's not Michael Keaton, it's Val Kilmer. So he had to make the list. I was totally stoked to get him, and I bought him twice. That tells you I liked him. Next on my list is the Mezco 1/12 Collective Deluxe Joker action figure. I love the color scheme. I love the fact that this Joker is so classic. And yes, you haven't seen him on my channel yet because I haven't reviewed him on the channel, but I promise you I do have him. He just hasn't made his way into, one of my videos yet. But the fact that this Joker looks so classic, and he comes with the trench coat, and he's got all those extra heads and the accessories. For me, I held off on getting the first one because I wasn't satisfied with him. And then when the second one was revealed, it was like, oh my god, that's the one for me. That's the one I gotta get. Come hell or high water, that's the one that will end up in my collection. Oh yes, it will be mine. And it is, and it made the list. Hooray. After that, we have the Multiverse Rebirth Wonder Woman figure. Yes, I did have that problem with her getting 2 of the exact same forearm. I ordered another one, and when she came in the mail, she was pretty much perfect. And the fact is, that's the only other Rebirth Wonder Woman figure that we've gotten. True, we did get the one from DC Icons that is technically actually multiverse scale, and she is technically a better figure in most ways. but she didn't come out this year. She came out in 2017 technically, because that's when the box set came out, so I can't really include her in this list. However, the Multiverse one, if you can't afford or can't get your hands on the box set one, this Multiverse one is actually really good. She's got great articulation, she's got great sculpting detail, and I really think that you could be satisfied with her. I like her so much I actually bought two. I wasn't content to have one that was messed up with the QT issue, so I bought a second one. Multiverse Rebirth Wonder Woman, on the list. The next two are going to be Wonder Womans, actually. The next is a Beast Kingdom Wonder Woman, and as much as the Superman and the Batman kinda let me down, I wasn't really that excited about them, the Wonder Woman, even though she had less articulation, which kinda sucks, I still really like her. She's the one that I want to pick up and fiddle with and pose around a little bit because I just think that she looks good. I think that she's very pleasing to the eye, and she has enough articulation that I'm happy with her. And then after that, it's the Mezco 1/12 Collective movie Wonder Woman figure. Yes, I know her head is just a little bit too big on the large bulbous side, just like the Catwoman and just like a lot of the Mezco 1/12 Collective figures, if we're being honest, but I still think she's an excellent figure. I wasn't going to put her on the list, but I just couldn't leave her off the list. When I think of the Mezco 1/12 Collective figures that I've picked up this year that I've really liked, Wonder Woman's been on that list. It just is what it is. Another one on my list is the Multiverse Batwoman figure. Those of us who are long-time Mattel DC collectors, I'm talking right back from the earlier days of the DC Universe Classics, we all wanted Batwoman to be one of the characters they made, and they just never made her. We just never got her. And so when it was announced and then shown and then finally she was released, this Batwoman figure, all of us who are Bat Family fans, all of us that are Mattel DC Universe Classics / Multiverse fans, we went bananas. It was like, oh my god, finally, they're going to release Batwoman. I can't wait. So yeah, she made the list because it's Batwoman. How could she have not made the list? Another figure that made my 2018 list is the Mafex 6-inch scale Henry Cavill Justice League movie action figure. I just feel like the sculpting detail and the paint applications and the color choices combined with the articulation just really made this figure a standout figure for me this year. And honestly, it's a huge improvement over the Batman v Superman Henry Cavill figure that they released previously. This is like they took all the things that they did wrong with that one and improved them and made the figure better for its Justice League release, because it's such a great figure. If you don't have this figure, or you previously have the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice version and you're just turned off by it, honestly, give this one a chance, because there's a reason why it made my top 20 list for 2018. It's just an all-around good figure. Okay, so the next three figures are actually going to be in order. The three that I liked the best, and like them overall more than every other figure that I've mentioned in this list. So I'm going to put them all in order now. So for number 3, it's actually the Doomsday Clock Rorschach figure. I know some of you were like, how can you put that on your list? It had crap articulation. Because I just really like the look of this figure. Some people hated the mask. I actually like it. Some people hated the fact that it had limited posability. I'm actually okay with its amount of posability because I don't plan to pose this figure around that much. And then the fact that he just looks so cool. I just love the look of him. So he made number 3. Number 2 is the Mafex Justice League Cyborg figure. I think he's a fabulous figure. For one, the joints, the knees and the elbows, they're all made out of a die-cast metal, so they're good and strong. He's been sculpted well, well-crafted, painted nicely. The QC with this figure was really good. He came with an excellent amount of accessories, the extra head, the guns, the whole bit. I just really, really liked that figure. And I told you before that he was going to be making that list, and he ended up being number 2, and in my opinion, for good reason. He's a fabulous figure. And finally, my personal number 1 action figure from 2018 is the Mafex Justice League Ben Affleck Batman figure. If you don't own this figure and you're a fan of Batman or the Justice League or Ben Affleck as Batman, this figure, in my opinion, is very close to perfect. It has excellent articulation, wonderful likeness. The paint apps are really, really good. It really captures that movie feeling. I really, really like this figure overall. It has great accessories. The bang for buck, if you can find this for the original release price and not pay double the price by a scalper on eBay, I think it's totally worth it, and I was the most impressed by it overall. I pick him up and want to fiddle with him all the time. And there we have it. That is my top 20 figures from 2018. I know that most of them were in no particular order, but I told you I really had a hard time deciding which ones were going to be the top because I like them all so much. Sometimes I like certain figures more than others, and the list kind of goes up and down, but those are the 20 figures out of all the figures, and believe me, I bought a lot of figures this year. That is the top 20 figures for 2018 that I liked the most. And remember, even though I buy a lot of DC stuff, I don't buy everything that comes out in a year. There's certain things that I haven't had my chance to get my hands on yet. So this is just out of the figures that I bought in 2018. But my list is my list, and I'm sure that your list is gonna be your own, possibly completely different. So down in the comment section below, if you feel like it, leave your top 5 figures that came out that are DC figures from 2018. Also, if you like this video, bop it with a like. If you want to see more stuff from my channel show up in your inbox, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, doink the bell, so that hopefully you never miss a video, because YouTube is weird and they don't always notify people that are subscribed to you when a new video comes out. It's all kinds of jumping through hoops like a tiger at a circus, just trying to make sure that you see content from content creators you actually like. And then with that, I'll see you next time with the next video. Thank you so much for watching, Super Friends. Have an awesome day. Till next time.